Welcome to The Explainer. All right, today we're diving deep inside the human body to explore one of its most amazing, most perfectly timed processes, digestion.
You know, it's so much more than just your stomach crunching things up. It's a journey, a really complex and beautifully coordinated performance. It's like your body is conducting its own internal orchestra.
So let's follow the music of this chemical symphony, shall we? We're going to start with the very first note. And believe it or not, it's played long before you even take that first bite.
So the symphony actually begins the second you see, smell, or even just think about food. It's wild, right? It's a phase run entirely by your brain, which sends a signal down to your salivary glands telling them, hey, get ready, something's coming.
And your saliva? It's this brilliant two-part system. One part kicks out an enzyme called ptyalin, which jumps right on breaking down any carbohydrates. At the same time, the other part releases mucin, which is basically a natural lubricant that makes everything all slippery so it's easy to swallow. It's both digestion and mechanical engineering happening at once.
So, after the mouth has done its thing, the food heads down the esophagus. You can pretty much think of this as a mucus-lined water slide, just ensuring a super smooth journey to the next big stop in our orchestra, the stomach.
Okay, this is where the music really starts to swell. The stomach is no joke. It's not just some passive holding bag. It's this incredibly dynamic, acidic cauldron that unleashes a powerful mix of acid and enzymes to really get to work.
Now, what's absolutely fascinating here is that your stomach doesn't just wait around. Its process is like a three-act play. A full 30% of its secretions are triggered just by anticipation, seeing or smelling food. The main show, 60%, happens when food physically arrives and stretches the stomach. And then the final 10% is this carefully timed release as the food starts to move on out. So smart.
Just think of the stomach lining as this high-tech factory floor with a team of absolute specialists. You've got parietal cells cranking out super strong acid and sheep cells making a key enzyme. But to keep the factory from dissolving itself, which is pretty important, the mucus cells produce this thick, protective shield. And then you have the G cells acting like supervisors, releasing the hormone gastrin to manage the whole operation. It's just a perfect system of checks and balances.
All right, let's head over to the main event, the small intestine. This is really the concert hall where the bulk of digestion happens, and it's all thanks to two very important guest musicians, the pancreas and the liver.
The pancreas is just an absolute powerhouse. It doesn't just dump one chemical into the mix, it sends in a whole toolkit of specialized enzymes. It's got proteases specifically for proteins, amylase for carbs, and lipases for fats. It's like sending in 3 different master craftsmen to dismantle the food perfectly piece by piece.
And then we have the liver's contribution, bile. Seriously, think of bile just like dish soap attacking the grease in a frying pan. It takes these big, clumsy blobs of fat and shatters them into tiny little droplets. This process, emulsification, gives the fat-digesting enzymes a massive surface area to work on. Then, bile helps pack the digested fats into these little transport pods called micelles, getting them all ready for absorption.
So, just how important is bile? Well, this number says it all. Without it, your body would just fail to absorb 40% of the fat you eat. Almost half of it would just pass right through you, totally unused. That's how crucial this one single step is.
Okay, so this all sounds incredibly complex, right? So how is it all coordinated? How does the pancreas know exactly when to release its enzymes? Or the gallbladder know when to squeeze out the bile? Well, the answer is a series of powerful hormone messengers that act as the orchestra's conductors.
Our first conductor is gastrin. You can think of it as the stomach's big green go button.
So when food, especially protein, hits your stomach and makes it stretch, that's the cue. G cells release gastrin into the blood. It loops back around and tells those acid-producing cells to get busy. It kicks off the main phase of digestion and also tells the stomach lining to stay strong and healthy.
All right, next up, as that super acidic food mix, it's called chyme, starts leaving the stomach, we have a potential crisis. The next part of the intestine can't handle it. And that's where our next conductor, secretin, steps onto the podium.
Look, the small intestine just isn't built to handle that kind of intense acid. So secretin acts like a chemical fire extinguisher. It tells the pancreas, quick, release a bicarbonate-rich fluid.
and that fluid completely neutralizes the acid, protecting the intestine and creating the perfect, non-acidic environment for the next wave of enzymes to do their job.
And finally, we meet the Symphony's true master multitasker, CCK, or cholecystokinin. This hormone jumps into action the moment it detects fats and proteins arriving on the scene.
CCK is the ultimate project manager. It tells the pancreas, release the enzymes, and it tells the gallbladder, squeeze out that bile. But here's the really genius part. It also sends a signal all the way back to the stomach, telling it to slow down. That feeling of being full after a rich meal, you can thank CCK. It's literally hitting the brakes to make sure the whole system has enough time to do its job right.
Okay, with all the heavy lifting of digestion done, our Symphony now moves into its final, quieter act, absorption. The nutrients are now broken down into their simplest forms, and they're ready to be welcomed into the body as the process gently concludes.
Even the intestinal walls themselves add a few finishing touches. Special glands in the small intestine secrete fluids that create the perfect liquid environment for all those valuable nutrients to be absorbed. Then, as things move to the large intestine, the job shifts. No more digestion. It's all about absorbing water and electrolytes. And mucus makes one final appearance, protecting the intestinal wall and helping to, hold everything together at the end.
That quote really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's not just a process, it's a masterpiece. From that very first thought of food to the final absorption of nutrients, every single step is precisely controlled by nerves, enzymes, and hormones all working in perfect harmony.
It's really something to think about, isn't it? Your body is pulling off this flawless performance every single day without you even having to think about it. So maybe the next time you sit down for a meal, you can take a second and just appreciate the quiet opening notes of your own personal